City of Shakopee Candidates Forum. Tonight's debate is being sponsored by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau and hosted by the Shakopee Public Schools in the auditorium of Shakopee High School. My name is Rob O'Neill. I'm the pastor of Brookwood Community Church, a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be moderating tonight's debate. Our candidates for mayor this year are Councilman Matt Laven, who's running for a first term, and Mayor Brad Tabke, who is seeking re-election for a second term. Would you welcome our candidates now this evening? Candidates this evening are arranged in the order in which they'll appear on the November 5th ballot. During our forum this evening, I'll have the opportunity to ask each of them questions. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer the question. Candidates are then given 30 seconds to make rebuttal remarks against each other, and also 30 seconds to answer follow-up questions. We'll begin this evening with opening statements from each candidate, and they'll have 2 minutes to make their opening statements. And we'll begin this evening with Mr. Laven.
Thank you, sir. I guess I would start by thanking the Chamber for putting this forum on, and also thanking all of you for being here tonight. I'd also like to thank those that may watch this as it comes out on the internet and the local government access channel. My name is Matt Laven. Obviously, I've served on the City Council for 12 years now. I've had the privilege to serve with multiple mayors, city council members, differing staffs throughout the years with the city, and other jurisdictional leadership. Over that time, I've gained a wealth of experience and knowledge, and I'd like to apply that knowledge of what I've learned with the newly elected council coming November 5th. The reason I'm running for mayor for the city of Shakopee is, quite frankly, I disagree with our tax abatement policy. I feel that we haven't defined it enough, and it needs a better criteria and a long-term strategy. I also disagree with some of the actions that have been taken by my opponent, which undermine the integrity and confidence of the council as a body and you, the voters, by not allowing you the opportunity to participate in some of these decision-making processes. Lastly, the last 2 years, the amount of spending that the city has done, in the years that I've served, 12 years, I don't recall a year that we've done that much spending. So I'm concerned that the amount of spending and when it catches up to us, how it will impact the individual taxpayer. So that's my concerns. I look forward to answering questions tonight and putting my perspective out to the public. And again, I welcome you for being here.
Mayor Tabke.
Thank you very much, Rob. I want to say thank you very much to everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to the Chamber for having us here and putting the Public Policy Committee for putting all this together. And so many people showing up. This is great. We would be packed in City Hall tonight, so that's very good. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming and being part of the process and listening to what we have to say tonight. Councilor Laven and I we have very different visions of where we want the city to go and what we want to see happen in the city of Shakopee, and I think that will come out tonight as we continue to discuss things. I was elected to Shakopee mayor 2 years ago, almost in 2 weeks here, and in that election, we talked a lot about the tone of city government. We talked a lot about economic development, and we talked a lot about what Shakopee could be and what Shakopee could continue to do as we grow and prosper and change and grow into the city that I believe that we can become. In the last 2 years almost, we have done what I feel is an extraordinary job as a city, working as a city council and working to bring jobs here to Shakopee. We have 4,500 jobs coming to the city of Shakopee alone in the next 5 years. We have worked to advocate for our cultural diversity within the city. We have worked to bring other people into the fold that haven't been previously. We are working on a lot of different things, and we have a much more open and transparent and communicative government than we have had in the past. And I'm extremely proud of those things that we have done. We have been working a lot on transportations. We invested $500,000 into our roads for the city. So we've been working a lot on infrastructure and the things that a city needs to do. So I look forward to talking about those things tonight and talking about where we're going to go into the future and what our vision continues to be for the city of Shakopee. And very much thank you again for being here and look forward to the evening.
Well, our opening question this evening has to do with the role of the mayor. So what is, first of all, the role of the mayor? And we'll begin with Mr. Tabke.
Thanks, Rob. This is something that, after I was elected, took me by surprise a little bit, because there are two extremely different roles that the mayor has to play that I learned a lot about as we went through the first year. That first role is the governmental role, and that role is city council meetings and policy and setting policy and setting the direction and the tone of where our actual government is going and what we are doing on a day-to-day basis as a city. The other side of what the mayor has to do is equally or more important, is the cheerleading that has to go on for a community. Part of what I felt moving here since in 2003, what we lacked as a city of Shakopee was someone to really speak up for who we are and who we are as a community. And that was something that the mayor is really important, and what I've worked really hard on is talking about our community and cheerleading for our community and making sure that we are a player in the entire metro and in the state, so that we are a community that is here, and we've got a lot of great things going for us and a lot of great things to do as the city of Shakopee.
Mr. Laven, what is the role of the mayor?
The role of a weak mayor that we have in Shakopee, actually Shakopee has what they call a weak mayor system. And it's defined as the mayor is basically a council member that runs the council meeting. Also signs the documents that are passed by the council as a body, and represents the city in ribbon cutting events and those types of things. The cheerleading that my opponent discusses is really designed by policy at the council level in the structure of policies or incentive packages for our expert staff to implement. The department heads that we hire, their purpose is to actually run each department, not the mayor. Matter of fact, the mayor function is spelled out in a League of Minnesota Cities policy guide. Explicitly says that that's not the role of the mayor or any council member to be directly involved in the functions of various departments, where that is the chief responsibility of the department head, who then responds directly to the city administrator, who deals directly with the elected body. So, as an example, if I had an issue with Public Works, the proper procedure would be for me to take that to the city administrator or his assistant, and they then would take it to that department head for addressing it and bring it back to me as a council member or a mayor. So that's the role of the mayor, as I understand it, through the League of Minnesota Cities and our adopted policies.
As a follow-up then to that, what is the difference between the role of the mayor and the role of a city council person? And we'll go in the same order, Mr. Tabke, follow-up.
Yeah, I'm glad that Councilor Laven talked about the league policy guide, because it's something I'm fairly familiar with. But one thing that he's missing of talking about that is that the role of the mayor is also to set the vision and to have leadership for the community. You're absolutely right, Councilor, that the mayor is but one of 5 equal votes, and there's never ever been a question about that, never been any issues with that whatsoever. However, the mayor is also responsible for leading the way and showing where we can go and where we should go as a community, and being the tip of the spear and figuring out how we get these kinds of things done and where we should be going as a community, and being out there and talking with community members and talking with people about what we can and should be doing, and really laying out that vision for what we can be in the next 5, 10, 30 years as we continue to grow as a community.
Mr. Laven, how would you distinguish between the role of the mayor and the city council?
My response to that would be, if that's in fact the direction where we want to go, there's no reason to have a 5-member council. The reason the people of Shakopee elect 5 members of the city council is to have differing opinions, different ideas, and you sit them people down in a goal-setting session, and they steer what the priorities for the city of Shakopee are as a body. If the opposite of that would be having a dictatorship where one person makes some decisions and the rest are there to implement one person's decision. That's not how our government works at any level. So that's just inaccurate.
Well, for our second question, let's move to the topic of livability. Cities are always being ranked on the concept of livability. What does livability and quality of life in Shakopee look like to you, and what would you do to improve upon those factors? Mr. Laven, we'll begin with you.
Well, livability really covers quite a bit, actually. Livability could be anywhere from your various housing stock, from a lower priced house to a high-end home, so that all the different income brackets have the ability to be here. Livability includes items of ease of transportation to get to and from where you're trying to get to. The ease of a variety of opportunities, whether it's shopping malls or various different services that people use on a regular daily basis. That diversity, I think, adds a lot to the livability. The ability for individuals to be able to afford to live here and spend their money here adds to the livability. The variety in recreational opportunities is important, because some people like active recreation, some people like passive recreation, and we happen to be fortunate to have both. You know, with the river and the lakes and DNR trails and stuff, we're very diversified. So from a livability standpoint, we're pretty livable at this point.
Mayor Tabke, livability, what do you see livability in Shakopee being like, and what would you do to improve upon it?
Thank you, Rob. First off, we have an extraordinary city. We have a great community. We have a lot of wonderful people in Shakopee that make our community livable. We have an extraordinarily livable community, I believe, in my opinion. Gaps in that livability that we need to continue to work on. So we have not, throughout our history, had a community where we can both all live, work, and play in our community. We have 84% of our residents of Shakopee go outside the city in order to find their job, to find a high-paying job, to keep their lifestyle up and to meet their lifestyle needs. And so we have people who go outside the city to work. We've brought a lot of jobs here to Shakopee to meet those needs, to get more people to stay here in Shakopee to live. Secondly, we have a large gap in our retail entertainment sector for what we have in our community. We haven't got, as someone who came here in 2003, I expected by this time to have more retail and have more places to shop and go out in Shakopee. And I'll take the rest on my next 30 seconds if I get so much of a chance.
Well, there's actually a very specific follow-up that we'd like to ask each of you, because members of the Public Policy Committee spent time with 9th graders in the Shakopee Public Schools recently, and far and away the #1 livability issue to them was the issue of ice and hockey facilities and their availability. So we do want to ask you directly, do you see the need for additional recreational ice rinks and hockey facilities for the city? And if so, how would you pursue it? And so this is a follow-up. We'll begin again with Mr. Laven.
The times have definitely changed. My age is going to show in this question. When I was a child, all of our hockey was outside. Today, it's all inside. We have become a society of convenience and comfort. So if you're looking for the creature comfort inside ice arenas from the perspective of those that play it and want it that way, yes, they say they have a need for ice time. The ice time that we currently have in Shakopee is booked pretty heavily, and they buy ice time outside, which is very unfortunate. However, the city over the years have worked very hard on creating a partnership with the Hockey Association to put together a partnership opportunity to build these second sheets. My time is up, and I'll come back to this.
Mayor Tabke, is there a need for ice? And if so, how would you pursue it?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Absolutely. There is an urgent need for ice in the community of Shakopee. I couldn't disagree with Councilor Laven more. We utilize our outdoor rinks fully. We have the rink at Lions Park. We have multiple rinks throughout our community that we use for little kids, through high schoolers, through adults, for ice, for anything from figure skating and speed skating practice and hockey. Everything for that ice is a Minnesota pastime, and we do not have enough space in order to get that done in the city. We do need to add a second sheet of ice somehow. We're not exactly sure how to do that yet in the community, but we have a lot of really good ideas. That is something for our livability and our future of that segment of our population to be served.
Can I continue where I was
Mr.
left
Lehman,
off?
I think you asked for a 30-second
I did.
rebuttal.
The last plan that was floated, and this may have been before Mr. Tabke's time on council, was the south side of the existing community center next to the sheet of ice that's currently there by building a metal structure, if you will. It's cost efficient to do it that way, which would be connected in partnership with the school district and the locker rooms, and that was the last plan that was floated, and the Hockey Association at the time committed to funding a portion of that. Haven't heard where they're at with their funding, but that's the last that I knew. I don't know if they gave up on the funding or if they're ready to move forward.
Mayor Tabke, 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, actually the last plan that was moved forward through City Council was a referendum in 2009, I believe it was. I ran that referendum because I thought that improving the community center, not just ICE, but improving the community center by having a senior center, by having added fitness facilities for our community was incredibly important to the future of Shakopee to meet the needs of our active families and seniors. And that's still something I believe we need to get done in the near future to meet that livability quotient of our community.
Well, we move now to the topic of economic development, and we'll spend some time on this topic this evening. So in the past year or so, the City Council's used tax abatement tools to entice businesses to come to Shakopee. What are your feelings on the use of TIF and tax abatement to bring development to Shakopee? And Mayor Tabke, will begin with you.
Can I have 2 minutes on this one? This is the biggest question of this election, in my opinion. My opponent is working really hard to get a lot of information out there that is not accurate and not true. Unfortunately, to the detriment of all of us. He keeps talking about the fact that these companies that are coming to Shakopee are not going to pay taxes, that they are going to be tax-free and a burden to our society for the next 9 years until the abatement is done. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, that is absolutely not true. These companies who are coming that we've been partnering with in public-private partnerships are paying a significant number of taxes into the city of Shakopee, to the school district, to the state, to the county. They are paying a lot of taxes. The way our tax abatements work and the way we as a city structure them, which I think is incredibly, is a really good way to do it, and that started well before I became mayor, is we take the amount of taxes that companies pay currently, and they have to continue paying those taxes. They do not get to have any of those taxes discounted at all. Then a company improves a property, and that improvement on the property, that more taxes that they pay is what we abate in most cases, is the way it works. So we are simply foregoing future money, so money that we don't know would be there or not. We are foregoing that future money if it weren't for those projects to happen. That is what we are abating, and that is what we were working with those companies to give back after they meet very specific job requirements. Mr.
Lehman, what are your feelings about the use of TIF or tax abatement to bring development to Shakopee?
Well, first, since the stop sign was up for a minute, I guess I get 3.
I took my glasses off. I can't see that far.
Never did I say these companies are a burden, so that's a misstatement by my opponent. I will say that I have supported tax abatement in the past. I see past Mayor Mars here, who appointed me and another council member specifically and gave us the authority of council by council to negotiate the Dean Lake Development Project. Now, we negotiated that project over about 6 to 8 months, brought it back to the City Council. The City Council accepted our work. They adopted it. It was probably the largest project that Shakopee's ever done. Because of that project, back in 2003, companies like Shutterfly, TriStar, Compass, and others have located on that site. If it was not for that project then and the strategy that we had years ago looking into the future, what we are currently having today would not have been possible. So I do support tax abatement when done properly. However, saying that, I strongly believe that the current tax abatement is too much, too fast. It's not well thought through. It's kind of just shoved on through. The criteria doesn't exist. The long-term strategy does not exist. And yes, this has a lot of risk. Now, when we talk about tax, is that 3 minutes, or did you cut me off at 2?
They're cutting you off at the same point that, that the mayor had. Mayor Tabke, I would assume you would like 30 seconds of rebuttal, and Mr. Laven, I assume you would like 30 seconds of rebuttal as well.
Thank you. Where I'd like to start with that is, Councilor, you are absolutely correct. What we are doing today would not be possible if it weren't but for the work that had been done by you in the past, out at Dean Lakes, by former Mayor Mars in the past, by Mayor Schmidt. Everyone who's been in city government over the last 50 years in Shakopee deserves part of the praise for what is going on today. We are seeing unprecedented job growth. Any community throughout the state, all over the country, would love to see what we are having happen in Shakopee right now. It takes a unified council. Majority of the projects that we have approved incentives for have been 4-to-1 votes. Councilor Laven was voting for the abatements at the beginning, like he said, and then he changed his mind and stopped voting for the abatements at that point. And it has been incredible to have all of this work and all these different partners with the county has been passing things unanimously and different partners coming together to help get these jobs done. It's not just us, but the city is leading it, and we're working together with a lot of different people to get great projects done.
Mr. Laven, you'll have the same amount of time to respond.
The accurate statement that I will make about tax abatement is that the companies that move in and make them improvements, that property, that parcel of property pays no additional revenue to the city other than what it was currently paying before they moved into that site. The second comment I would make is that for the next 9 years, if the abatement is 9 years, for the next 9 years, they will contribute 0 new revenue dollars to any new staff positions or to any increase of city spending, which means the burden then falls on to the existing taxpayers, which is residents and existing businesses. This drives up the business cost, which is passed on to the residents. Since the residents now lost some of their dollars into taxes, higher taxes, now they lost a purchasing power to spend at them businesses, which now hurts your local economy.
We'll do one more round.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Tabke.
With that, what we've been having happen in the city of Shakopee is that you're right, that they don't pay any new taxes above what they already are, but they're already paying hundreds of thousands and millions of taxes to the city of Shakopee. Those companies are already paying a significant number of dollars to get things done. None of these projects, except for Emerson, required any additional infrastructure for the city. So the roads were already there. They're already being plowed. The police is already there. We're already policing areas. We have the infrastructure and everything set up to handle these jobs coming into the community. What is happening from here by having these 4,500 jobs coming into Shakopee is we are seeing independent private investment in the city of Shakopee that we haven't seen for a really long time. TE Connectivity is building giant building. Opus is building a spec building. It's the first spec building that's been built in the state since the recession took place. This is happening right here in Shakopee. So we're seeing a significant amount of private investment because we are bringing these 4,500 jobs here, getting everything started, getting everything moving to have all this and retail happening here in the city of Shakopee.
Mr. Laven, you have another follow-up?
I do. It's my understanding that TE Connectivity moved out of their large building on 12th Avenue and are now having a building built smaller for them to lease on 4th and Shenandoah by Ryan Companies. So Emerson actually went the wrong way. Emerson also does not pay school taxes. They went out of their way to make sure that they're abated from paying school taxes, and that leads me to wonder about their moral commitment to the children that society in general has understood that we all pay taxes to the school district, whether we have kids or not, because it's the right thing to do. So when we have $3.9 million scheduled for road improvement projects, obviously we need roads, and with more traffic, more roads are going to be needed into the future. Unfortunately, them roads are going to be paid for. 70% of our road policy is paid for by the taxpayers. These companies pay nothing. So that's for the next 5 years, every year. So yes, there's going to be a burden they're not paying for. When that road bubble is gone, and complete and paid for by the taxpayers, the companies are now coming on the tax roll.
As a follow-up, would like to ask both of you, so we're still on the same question, gentlemen, really, of economic development and tax abatement. There have been discussions of establishing objective criteria. So what objective criteria would you establish for offering tax abatements to businesses in the future? Since we're on the same question, Mayor Tabke, 30 seconds to you, and then Mr. Laven, 30 seconds to you on this.
Thank you. Yeah, we have been working extremely hard establishing clear criteria and objectives that we need to have as community for tax abatement. We have current objectives that we meet, and we meet with every project. We have to meet a minimum threshold of wage requirements for each project. In order to get abatements or in order to get incentives, they need to meet job requirements. And so that happens, and that has been our criteria thus far. I agree entirely that we need to continue to flush out those criteria and figure out what is best for Shakopee. I wish that had been done 5 years ago while Councilor Laven was on council and we had less projects going on. I wish that had happened at that point, but I've only been mayor for a year and a half, and that's one of the projects that we will continue to work on if I'm reelected.
Mr. Laven, objective criteria, what would you establish?
Well, we'd start by honoring the stop sign.
You'll get the same amount of time.
All right. The criteria that I would like to see would be, we would start out requiring a 5-year profit and loss statement and a 5-year employment history. This was used by past councils, and the reason we want that information is when a company comes to Shakopee and says, I'm going to bring X number of jobs to Shakopee, I want to see something that proves that they haven't cut 200, 300, 400, 500 over the last 5 years. If they've cut jobs in the past, chances are they're not in a position to add jobs. The profit and loss statement is the same. We want to make sure they're not losing $1 million every single year and then come to Shakopee and ask for assistance. My time is up.
Staying similarly on the topic of economic development, but moving perhaps off of tax abatement for a moment, what is your plan for the city to support business growth and attract new businesses to Shakopee? Mr. Laven.
The biggest tool that we could possibly have, we've utilized for quite a while, and that's having the lowest tax rate around. Our tax rate is lower than most around us, and from a business, as a business owner and business standpoint, when you're putting together a business plan, you want to be able to take your numbers, look at how consistent that tax rate is, set that money aside, you know how much it's going to cost you, you want to know your consumer base, and you want to know that you have access, whether it's the rail access, the highway access. These are all very important to business. When you start using your tax rate up and down or straight up, if I was a business looking at a community and I saw that the tax rate consistently goes up, I would be looking for somebody stable, so I know what my expenses are going to be in the future.
Mayor Tabke, what would you do to support business growth and attract new businesses to Shakopee?
What I would do to support business growth and attract new businesses to Shakopee is what we're doing right now. We are filling vacant space throughout our community. We have a building that sat empty for 13 years, just waiting for someone to come and be part of our community. And we have someone that's coming in to be part of our community right now, bringing 500 jobs through Emerson. We have Shutterfly bringing 1,300 jobs. All of these jobs we've worked with the private sector to bring here to Shakopee creates new jobs down the road. So what is happening and what we're seeing happen is right now we are seeing an extraordinary, and it's very exciting. I can't tell you how exciting it is, but it is really exciting to see how many retail companies are looking at Shakopee right now. We have multiple developments that are in play right now because of the work that we've been doing as a council to bring jobs here to Shakopee. So that's 4,500 lunches that need to be made every day. That's 4,500 cars that need to be fixed by mechanics. These are 4,500 new people here in our community to utilize our small business and continue to grow here in Shakopee.
And our next question stays on the topic of economic development, but let's focus on downtown for a moment. Do you think there's too much focus on developing downtown or not enough? Mayor Tabke?
We are working on it right now. We have, this has been a passion of mine. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. We have 1,300 people in Mobile, and we had a downtown, and that is a big part of the reason why I moved to Shakopee. Our downtown is our core, it's our foundation of who we are as a community in the business sector, and downtown has been sorely needing to have more capital and more work done with the downtown over the last 10 years. And so we are working on multiple programs right now. We reinstated the facade improvement program to help make the buildings look better all through town, especially downtown 101 corridor. We're working on a Main Streets program right now to have someone who is dedicated to work on making sure that people are moving and expanding their businesses in downtown Shakopee. So for the first time in a long time, we are putting an emphasis on downtown Shakopee, where I think is our core of business. And by bringing all these other companies here to Shakopee, they will participate in spending money and to making our downtown business district thrive.
Mr. Laven, downtown, too much or not enough?
All the wrong things, I would say. Over the last 12 years, the city of Shakopee has done nothing but divide and create controversy and put businesses in the downtown corridor in a position of, well, at one point, let's see, we've dealt with eminent domain by force for land banking and redevelopment, which was in a comp plan years ago that it took council to remove that from the comp plan. These things divide this area. If you ask anybody on that corridor, the businesses and the property owners, they will tell you that the best thing that we could do is get the city to leave us alone. We've taken accesses. We've talked about taking First Avenue and putting a divider in the middle so half of your potential clientele cannot get to you. So we've done a lot of things to really make waves in the First Avenue corridor and then wonder why there's animosity. What we need to do with the First Avenue corridor is sit down with the business owners and the property owners and ask them what they think is a unifying theme that they can all agree on, and start this theme on this corridor so that it's connected.
Mr. Laven, what do you think needs to be done to support and grow current businesses?
In Shakopee in general or downtown?
Yes, in Shakopee in general.
I think with the vision that past councils had and two mayors was the large corporate campuses you want to entice with a very high standard for the jobs, and you want to locate them where the infrastructure is already located, and that was the vision for Dean Lake, and we're partially doing that and partially not. So that's a good strategy long term. The smaller businesses, I don't know that the city or government in general should be telling a business where to make their investment. I think it's up to the individual business to decide if they want to come here and why. I wouldn't let government make decisions with my money, because if we look at the federal government, we would all be broke.
Mayor Tabke, what needs to be done to support and grow current businesses?
I will go back to what I've been saying. We, as a council, majority of council has been supporting great policies that support and grow new businesses here in Shakopee. There have been a lot of things that have been going on. A lot of them, as I said before, have been 4-to-1 votes within City Council, and so we've been extremely clear as a City Council that we are a city that wants to grow and wants to continue to prosper and wants to bring jobs here to Shakopee, and we're being beyond successful with that right now.
Let's talk about taxes for just a moment, and this may be a question of fact and perspective. Are city taxes going up or down, and as importantly, what do you base your response on? Mayor Tabke.
Are you asking me? Okay, sorry. This is another great question that I'm really excited to talk about with everyone here tonight and who's watching. Councilor Laven has been talking a lot about our tax rates and our levies and how everything that we're doing are increasing the burden on grandma and homeowners and businesses here in the community. If you look at the actual facts, what I look at is what people are actually paying. So an individual homeowner, what people are actually paying for their house in taxes since I've become mayor. So from 2012 to 2013, the community saw an extraordinary drop in taxes for residential taxes. 63% of our community saw their taxes go down from 2012 to 2013. Another 28% of our community saw taxes raise a little bit by $30 a year or less. And so I think it's really important to actually talk about what people are spending and what people are doing. We can talk about the tax rate, we can talk about the levy, but those aren't real numbers. They hit home for what everyone is doing. So from 2012 to 2013, property taxes have lowered for residents here in Shakopee, and I've got more when we get there.
Mr. Laven, are they going up or down, and what do you base your response on?
Well, first let's take a look at property values. When you own a $200,000 house, and example, you pay $500 in taxes, and then your property value goes down to $150,000, and you're still paying $500 taxes. What that in fact means is that the rate of taxation on that property has gone up. Now that your property is devalued and the dollar amount's the same, and now the value, when they do come back up, go up, do you think that number will stay the same, that 500? No, it goes up because the value went up. So in effect, your rate of taxation has gone up on your property. And the wave of what we're currently spending last year and this year, which I feel is pretty substantial and concerns me greatly, that the people that are struggling, the young families that are struggling, and the seniors on a fixed income will probably have a burden placed on them. So that is a legitimate concern. Obviously, we can't control the values of properties, but we can control your taxes.
Mayor Tapke, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, so with that, you're right, Councilor Lehman, that our tax rate went up, but the rate is not what people actually pay. I need to make sure that that's very clear to everyone, that our tax rate is not what we pay. What we pay is our property tax amounts, and for 63% of the city of Shakopee, those tax rates, those property taxes went down. So again, moving into next year with the different projects that we've put into place in the economic development, we have greatly and phenomenally expanded our commercial sector. And a majority of our property taxes are brought in through commercial property taxes. So our tax base, the amount of taxes we can bring in as a city, has grown by 5.9% from last year to this year. With that, our tax rate will not grow that much. So everybody's taxes, the amount of taxes that they actually pay, will go down again next year. So we can't talk about raising all these taxes when they're spending less.
Can I,
yes, Mr. Lehman.
30 seconds on that? Yes, the tax base grows when you have new development. However, a large chunk of that development is not supplying new revenue. They're tax abatement companies. That means as you do a levy to spend more money, that money now is displaced over the larger base, but in fact, it's not spread over the ones that are tax abated because they don't pay the taxes for a few years. So yes, that will have an impact on the current people that pay taxes.
One more round, Mayor Tapke.
Thank you. That's actually incorrect. The abated taxes do not count toward our tax base. Where we increased our tax base is through the other projects who have come into Shakopee and increased the tax base for those. So we have seen an extraordinary tax base growth. We've seen a lot of new houses come into the city of Shakopee, which will come into onto the tax rolls in 2014. That's what's happening. So all these jobs that we're bringing here are increasing our property values. I just saw a figure today from Zillow that the year over year, from last year to this year, property values, residential property values in the city of Shakopee are raising 20.2% is what they've gone year over year. And I think that's a success. I think that is something that is great for the city of Shakopee, and we'll run on that any day.
Okay. Our next question will begin with Mr. Lehman, and it's on the topic of cultural diversity. What challenges and opportunities come from growing diversity in the population of Shakopee, and how would you address problems and maximize opportunities?
It depends how you look at diversity. If you're an individual that separates people based on color or race or cultural background, then you're creating problems. If you're a person like I am, that I view people as people, regardless of what color they are or what sex they are or what country they came from or anything like that. The biggest problem I think we have is the language barriers. I can't force somebody in the audience to go study a national culture unless they want to. And if they want to, that's fine. The biggest issue I think we have is communication barrier. And instead of trying to teach 20% to speak 64 languages, I would prefer that we try to take the 80% and teach them one language. It's much more cost effective, and it's more universal. Actually, it's worldwide accepted. So that would be my approach to it. Granted, we're going to have to work through the immediate issues, but that would be the long-term goal.
Mayor Tabke, what challenges and opportunities come from growing diversity, and how would you address problems and maximize opportunities?
Thank you. The way you answered that question, Councilor Laven, is a big part of the problem. We have to recognize that we are a very diverse community. By population, by percentage of population, Shakopee has a more diverse community than Minneapolis has. We have more Asians, we have more Latinos, we have more Russians. Here, we have a huge growing Somali population in the city of Shakopee. We need to recognize that those populations are there, not just to help prop up the people who need help. And a lot of the Latino population needs help on things. A lot of our minority populations in the community needs help. And I think that government needs to lend a hand and help bring people up through helping closing with the school boards, closing education gaps, giving as many recreation opportunities as we can, working with private businesses to help infuse money and create programs where people can learn and people can grow and thrive here in our community. That is part of who we are, and that is part of what we should be doing as a city. Now, we have a tremendous opportunity with our diversity here in Shakopee, and I hope we began the process of, my time is out, dang it! This is something I get pretty worked up about, sorry.
Can I extra ask for 30 seconds?
Okay.
The opportunity afforded to anybody that's here from any country is the same as anybody else. We are a nation that is built upon equality. We have a constitution that's applied across the board to everybody equally. I do not think the best thing to do is to segregate individuals based on their national origin and say this one gets preferential treatment. That is not how this country operates. We all were immigrants at one point. We came from various walks of life and countries. He's telling me my time is up.
Mayor Tabke, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Matt, that everyone has equal opportunities and everyone has equal right to grow and prosper in our community, especially in Shakopee. And I do believe it is incumbent upon us who are more fortunate to help out those who are not. And so that's why we had the Diversity Alliance created. Shakopee Diversity Alliance is a completely non-governmental, independent group that's working to promote and advocate and teach our diverse population. This is a way that government has stepped in. We worked and had the city hall. People came to the Diversity Summit a year ago in March, and we worked really hard to get people in and get them part of our community to really show off who we are and have more diversity working within government.
We have very little time left. There'll be two more questions we'll try to get through here, and we're going to begin with a question about city staff. What's your opinion of the city staffing levels? If it's not enough, what additional city staff do we need? And if it's too much, what positions would you eliminate? We'll begin with Mayor Tabke.
Thank you. When I first came into office, I'm a business person. I own a small business, and part of who I am is I work in consulting and work with commercial real estate, and I look and see how things work and how things are running. And a big part of my first year was really observing and watching and looking and working with people to figure out how we're actually running as a city. And part of that was I learned a lot, and we put a lot of that we learned and I was able to communicate with council into our 2013 budget. So we had a significant number of payroll issues with our seasonal employees during the summer, and that was a big problem that we just didn't have the bandwidth as a city government to handle. So we have an HR technician who is now on staff, natural resources now on staff. We took and hired a a police liaison to work with our different communities within the city of Shakopee, and that put another police officer on the street. So we did all those things in addition to hiring economic development coordinator, which,
thank you.
With all this, oh, I'm stopped, I'm sorry.
Stopped. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Laven.
I based staffing levels from various departments on a report that our staff, very good staff I should say, put out that shows me the amount of employees per capita within the city. So that's the first thing that I look for. Do we have opportunities to do things better? Absolutely. We just recently hired an economic development person where we were supposed to, we telegraphed to the county we were going to join them and split this position half and half with the county in their one-stop shop. At the 11th hour, the council opted not to do that and hire our own, so now the county has a full-time one and we have a full-time one, and we never had that synergy to save you money from both the county side and the city side. So there is opportunity there that we have missed, and it's unfortunate.
For our last question, for each of you, and this has to do with the qualifications of candidates for the office, what would you say positively about your opponent, and what would be your biggest criticism of your opponent? And Mr. Laven, we'll begin with you.
Well, I would say my opponent's qualities, he's a bubbly individual. He's not a bad person. I think in his heart he has the best intentions. What I disagree or have concern with is he tends to be too fast to action, bypassing staff, bypassing the city council, and not allowing you, the citizen, the opportunity to even participate in the decision. That's totally unacceptable in a democracy, and that's part of the reason I'm running. So I have nothing personally to say bad about Brad. I think he's got a wonderful family and stuff, and I do think he has the best intentions. I just think that he lacks experience, I guess.
Mayor Tabke, what would you say positively about your opponent? What would be your biggest criticism of your opponent?
Thank you. And thank you for that, Matt. The kind things were very kind. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
No, Matt is, in my opinion, an extraordinary council member on the fact that he asks questions. He is extremely valuable to have on council, that he asks a lot of questions. A lot of them I wouldn't think to ask, and his experience on council is very good for that, that he is there to ask those questions that history, I simply haven't been around long enough to have those, and so I think that is extraordinarily valuable. A lot of those questions lead from a very narrow worldview, global view of what Shakopee is, I think. I'm newer to Shakopee, moved here in 2003, and I see the city as completely differently than Matt sees the city. And that's, I think, where our biggest pushes and pulls come from, is we see literally two completely different communities that we both live in the same place. And so I see a community that is full of a lot of potential and a lot of promise and want to do a lot of great things. And he's right, I'm a pusher, and I push to get a lot of those things done. And that's one of the biggest differences between the two of us, is that we see things differently.
Our time is actually running out. If you've not had your question answered this evening, I would encourage you to make contact with both of these candidates after the forum this evening, or if you're joining us by television or online, you can make contact with their campaigns directly, or visit the Chamber's website as a source of more information about our candidates. Visit shakopee.org, and there are links to additional interviews and information about our candidates. Each candidate is now going to have 1 minute to make a closing statement, and again, we'll begin with Mr. Laven.
Thank you. Most people don't trust their government, and I can't blame them for that. My goal is to put trust and integrity back in your government to where you can honestly say you trust them. The second point I would make is that taxes are very important to individuals. Most people really don't care what their government does as long as they leave them alone, but they care what these things cost them and how it does affect their life. I will point out that my opponent took a trip to California, came back, council was unaware of this at the time, asked council to reimburse him for a social trip to California, a first-class trip, and council did. I voted against that. He also voted to double the mayor's salary. Now, I also voted against that. If I'm elected mayor, I would not accept that. It's the taxpayers' money. This is a volunteer service to the community, and I think if you're looking for somebody to watch your checkbook, there's the goalpost to look at.
Mayor Tabke.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you, Rob, for doing a great job, as always. Thank you to the Chamber for having us. I need to take the time and say thank you to my beautiful wife up there and the two little girls who have been extremely quiet tonight. That has been different and very good. And all the folks who've been working on my campaign and friends who've been here to support me, and I really appreciate you being here. In closing, I suppose, I really want to address what he just said, but I'm not going to. In closing, Councilor Laven and I have two very different visions and very different futures for the city of Shakopee. I want to continue working hard for the city of Shakopee and continuing what we've started. Our taxes have lowered as the city of Shakopee. As many ways as you want to break the numbers, everybody's taxes a majority of the community's taxes have gone down and are scheduled to do that again in 2014. Councilor Lehman's home taxes went down 12% this past year. So I think that's a good testament to where we're going and what we're doing. Even with this continued investment in our community and continuing to look at how we can do things better and how we can do things stronger, and the cuts that we made from 2012 to 2013 that we didn't get a chance to talk about are important to the future of our community, and I ask you for your vote. I ask you to re-elect me so we can continue working on what we have been working on in our community. So thank you.
The views expressed in tonight's debate are those of the candidates, not necessarily those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber is sponsoring this event as a service to our community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity of this forum. The Chamber does not endorse any candidate, but seeks simply to provide you, the citizens and voters of Shakopee, with the information you need to make an informed choice. Thank you to our audience this evening. We thank also our hosts, the Shakopee Public Schools and Shakopee Kids Voting. On behalf of the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau, thank you as well to our candidates. We appreciate your time, your candor, and the way that you're serving our community by running for office. You're performing an important service to us all. Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. Please remember to vote. We will now take a brief intermission while we prepare for our City Council candidates. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Tonight's debate is being sponsored by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau.